Let me welcome to the stage Mike Keogh. My good friend Mike Keogh is president of Provalus. We're going to tell you about Provalus. Mike, thank you so much for listening. Do you want a fusion
Steve.
Nuclear plant in Tahlequah?
We'd have to talk to the Cherokee Nation about that.
So I love what Mike Keogh's company does, and I want to give you an opportunity to tell our audience here, in short form, how you are changing the map. Again, I'm very map-driven. Changing the map of opportunity, of people who are being wired, we just basically a long time ago screwed over a lot of the United States by flying over it, and you're responding to that.
Yeah, so Provalus actually means something. It means providing outsourcing value in the U.S. So
that's what the word means?
That's what the word means.
Wow.
Yeah. So
you get that from ChatGPT or something?
Well, a lot of people thought it was a pharmaceutical product when we had our hats on. It's not. But what we do is we're a mission-oriented company. Mm-hmm. And our mission is to develop small-town rural America. And the way that we're doing it is we're building tech centers of between 100 and 300 people in small towns. And I mean 5 to 15,000.
Tell them where your favorite one is.
Brewton, Alabama.
No.
Tahlequah, Oklahoma is definitely one.
Yeah, Tahlequah, Oklahoma.
Our Brewton people wouldn't. That's our largest site. But we develop these sites and we provide IT services and business process services to large corporate customers and the public sector as well. And what we're doing is we're making a major impact on these towns. You can think about it, Steve, I'll use Alabama as an example, a town of 8,000 people. We came in there about 5 years ago. We've got 300 people working there today. We're running more than a $10 million payroll through this tiny town. All that money is coming in from corporate America and Fortune 500 companies. It's not coming from Alabama. All net new money flowing into the town. And even in just this one example, and you can imagine small town America, there's a railroad track down the middle, there's a Walmart on the other end of town, everything has been sucked out there, the downtown is desolate. Now, we locate our facilities in the heart of downtown. We do a real estate development project, and right now in that town, there are bars, restaurants, cafes, economic activity and lifeblood as a result of having 300 people working in a location there. So that's what Provalus is all about.
And so what drove you to do this? What was the business model that said, hey, we're not going to, chase all the geese flying a different direction, and you're going to be the odd goose that went this way?
Yeah, I mean, I was not one of the founders of the company. I was brought in to help scale it up. The original concept was a mission with a margin. It was about giving back. And it was about finding an untapped resource in the topography, which is really small town America. Who thought you could do cybersecurity operations from a town in rural East Texas called Henderson? Well, I can tell you that one of the largest cosmetic companies in the world had a major offshoring contract with one of our Indian competitors, and they were in the Wall Street Journal a few years ago with a major data breach. They went out to bid on that contract. That operation that used to be done in Hyderabad is done in Henderson, Texas, with a team of 20 people, and they were absolutely destroying the performance metrics compared to the prior thing. So I think what we found is really an untapped labor pool. I was at a panel over the summer, and the question was, well, what would you say is, it was a speed round, one-word answer. What would you say is, how would you characterize America's rural workforce? And I had my answers, and I went to my team and said, well, what do you guys think? And thankfully I listened to them. They said underestimated. And I thought that really captured it, because we're able to develop people that have an enormous pride in their work. You can imagine you grow up in a small town. Everyone went to the same high school. They probably went to the same middle school. And now you're out there competing and delivering services for the largest companies in America and some of the most critical IT operations and business processes, and you're executing it successfully. So it's a real point of pride, and we take a lot of pride in ourselves.
One of the things I find really interesting talking to both of you is, as a guy, I've done an economic summit one way or another every year for about 30 years. And so you get a pretty good digest in your head of what the issues are, what's the edgy, what's the vision. And I sort of feel like right now we're at a different moment. It reminds me of 1999, where we're at a point where we're going to have Steve Case here later today. Steve Case was one of the founder of AOL. Well, we went from AOL, which was dial-up, to being online all the time. That changed the world, right? I sort of feel like we're in another moment where everything is potentially changing the world. DC is a lag effect in that. Like, it's behind all of that. You're seeing innovations in what you're doing and what you're doing. And I'm just interested, as innovators in fusion, or, in how that plays, or innovators in, creating, these tech hubs in essentially neglected and taken for granted places in the country. I'm interested in what your challenge is with this town. Like, how do you get this town to be enthusiastic about the energy and innovation you're bringing? Greg?
I think what converts people is seeing the real world job impact. And it's sort of similar to what you're saying. Our prototype's in Massachusetts, and we employ 1,000 people right now. So sometimes people think fusion is, a bunch of scientists writing a white paper, but we have a 24/7 manufacturing facility. We're building magnets. And so in terms of what breaks through, it's that job impact. And so we don't just have plasma physicists, we also have engineers, welders, construction workers. And so in terms of what breaks through, that's really what people kind of need to see to land well in DC.
Mike?
Yeah, ours is a little different because we're not manufacturer. Our product is people. So what we're looking for are towns that have, better than median educational outcomes, because we need talent that we can then train and develop. So we do a lot of partnership with small rural universities, local high schools, tech colleges, because ultimately our input is people into our system. And then obviously one of the things we spend a heck of a lot of time and money on is our training and development curriculums for our employees, so that we can develop the next generation of workforce.
When you're in the workforce, are you doing stackable credentials? Are you kind of, I think one of the interesting things is all this talk about incumbent workers and how we help them during this turbulent time, or whether we upskill them. And I got to tell you, I have never been in a topic where I've seen better people trying to do something, but I've also seen stigma. I see a lot of stigma, around older workers who just said, okay, they're off. We all need, and I'm just wondering, this just can't work, right? You just need a different frame. And I hate that aspect of the discussion. I also think that things are changing by way of things like continuous education, lifelong education, and destigmatizing that. But we're still not there, right, Mike?
No, I don't think so. But I would say it's really interesting about our workforce, because I wouldn't have predicted this coming in and seeing the development of the business or forecasting it. More than half the people that work in our company are women, which is very unusual for tech. Our average age is about 35, which skews older. We have, of the people in our operation today, about a third are coming off unemployment. So we have a huge labor force participation increase in these towns. So, speaking from my own experience with the team, we have a very broad array of people in a small town, and we have young, old, people returning after 20-year hiatus from work. So really, we just want to create an atmosphere and a culture of success, empowerment, and learning. And you surround people with that, and they thrive. And that's exactly what we've proven.
Greg, what is you're not all nuclear engineers, right? You need other.
We need a whole range, and this also prompted me to think about our project in Virginia. So one thing we realized is that we need to start forming partnerships with community colleges, local workforce centers down there, because it's not just plasma physicists, it's engineers, welders, technicians. And then as we scale manufacturing, people who have that type of expertise that I mentioned earlier from places like Boeing, SpaceX, and Tesla. But we also just see a great job impact wherever we're building a facility.
So you're both consumers of stuff like systems, wiring, materials. I see my friend Boris Chumak over at BHP's, like in the critical materials space. You're going to get it. So you're on like the retail end of this. So I'm not going to, he's on the wholesale, kind of raw materials end. I'm just interested, do you notice, are you choking on supply chain challenges? Are you seeing costs high? I'm interested in like real world stuff when you're basically putting together one of your networks or systems, or you're looking at building this facility. How's the economy connecting to you? Is it tight, or is there enough supply?
It's less, I would say it's less of a pain point than perhaps other forms of energy. We don't have any reliance on China for our supply chain, and some of our critical components come from countries like Japan, where there's now a trade deal.
We still like Japan.
We do like Japan, especially in fusion, given their history of expertise in fusion. And so we have a global supply chain. Our IP and our special sauce is our magnets, but we bring in steel from Italy. We bring in high temperature superconducting tape from Japan. And we're kind of between two major projects. So in terms of where we're at on supply chain, for our prototype, a lot of that material is actually already onshore, and we're just manufacturing, engineering, and assembling at this moment. And then for the power plant, as we scale, it could be more of an issue down the road.
Mike?
Our system doesn't have physical inputs. It's really people. So, we're looking, this is one of the things we talk about a lot about new locations that we're scouting. We're in 9 locations in 6 states today. We'll have 12 by the end of next year. And one of the things we look at is, well, what's the carrying capacity of a town? How many people are graduating from high school a year? What's the commutable population? So that's more the inputs that we're looking at. Because again, as a people business, we're looking for the best people that we can find to train and develop. So it's a fundamentally different, but obviously like every business, it has constraints.
Well, we wish you well. Thank you so much for sharing this part of the new evolving topography of the American economy. Please give a big round of applause to Mike Keogh, president of Provalus, and Greg Deegan, who's head of international affairs at Commonwealth Fusion Systems. Thank you both.